Hello FPL managers and welcome to Fantasy Football Hub's Game Week 4 preview with me, James, and as always I'm joined by big man Bakar. Bakar, how's an international break treating you, mate?
Thanks for having me, James. I'm actually very happy to be back. The international break was actually very welcome, especially for a content creator. You know, you sometimes need a bit of a break after the exhausting first 3 game weeks. So it was a nice welcome time off. Now I'm right back into the thick of things, and I can't wait to get going ahead of game week 4.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we do have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. We have, as always, well, for the meantime at least, 10 fixtures to get through in Game Week 4, starting with the early kick-off, Crystal Palace versus Spurs. And it's all about Spurs' defence that you want to discuss first, Bakar.
Yep, James, they're yet to concede a goal this season, and I firmly believe they've been overperforming. Yes, the fixtures have been a bit tough. I mean, the first game was against City, then they played Wolves, which were challenging fixtures. I think they've been a bit lucky not to have conceded so far. They've actually conceded 52 shots overall, which is the third highest in the league so far, and that includes 31 shots inside the box. The expected goal conceded tally, it's around 2.8, and they haven't conceded so far, which makes them the most overperforming defense in the league so far. I think Crystal Palace will score in this game. They've been okay. Gallagher has been carrying most of their threat over the past few game weeks, and he's recorded decent numbers. I don't think Spurs will keep a clean sheet in this one, which is why quite a few people have been asking me whether it's worth getting a Spurs defender, particularly on a wildcard. I wouldn't go there personally.
Yeah, we've got Reguilon there on screen at the moment. He's one of the more popular Spurs defensive assets, of course. Eric Dyer, a 4.5 million potential option as well in that back line. How long will he stay there, though? Remains to be seen. Let's also talk about Son and Kane, Bakar, because as some of our viewers may already know, Son is very much an injury doubt for Game Week 4.
Yes, and we haven't really heard on the extent of the injury. I mean, it could easily be an international break injury. He could be fine for Game Week 4. But we haven't heard about it. But what concerns me is the fact that Spurs have an early kickoff. So even if it's the slightest of doubts, Nuno might choose not to risk him. So I mean, there are quite a few people who are already looking for replacements. There are a lot of managers who own Kane, and I think it's they're better advised selling him straight away for the likes of Ronaldo or Lukaku, whichever one they prefer. Even in the game against Watford, I believe that Son was very, very lucky to get his 10-point haul. Kane didn't do much all game, just recorded the one shot inside the box. No big chance involvements for any Spurs players, in fact, in that game against Watford, which is supposed to be an easy game on paper. You'd expect Kane and Son to be racking up the underlying numbers, which clearly didn't happen. And I firmly believe that Spurs are a work in progress at the moment. And considering the fact that they have Arsenal and Chelsea in Game Week 5 and 6, which aren't the easiest of fixtures, I think Son and Kane are worth getting rid of, particularly if Son is injured.
Well, a reminder to FPL managers that I will be recording with Ben Dinnery, the injury guru, later on today. So that'll be after Friday's press conferences. Do tune into that. It's the expected lineups, team news, and perhaps we'll get something on Son by the time we record that. Let's move on to the next fixture, Bakar, the first 3 o'clock, which is Arsenal versus Norwich. If you've had a bad run of results, as Arsenal have, can't really get a much better Game Week 4 fixture than at home against Norwich.
Exactly, James, and I think this will be the week where they bounce back. I don't think this fixture has too many FPL repercussions, given that I don't think too many people are interested in buying anyone from Arsenal or Norwich at the moment. But I think that especially for wildcarders, Ben White at 4.4 million could be a great value enabler. I think he's very, very cheap, and as a fourth defender, he could be a great filler, in case of any rotation or injury to any one of the players. I think Arsenal will tighten up with Gabriel and White as their centre backs. I think they're a significant upgrade on Murray and Holding. And given their fixtures, they're right up there when you look at the fixture ticker on Fantasy Football Hub. They're right up there, and I think returns will come.
Yeah, I was using that fixture ticker to plan my wildcard team. I'm currently on my wildcard, Bakar, and Tierney is really tempting for me.
Oh, that's interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I've jumped the gun, but I like the look of Tierney.
Tierney is an interesting one. In the first game week when Arsenal had an easier fixture, I won't read too much into game week 2 and 3, given the fact that they played possibly the two best teams in the league, in Chelsea and Man City. So I look at the game week 1 fixture against Brentford, and Tierney was top for chances created among all players in the league in that match, and he created like 6 chances. Arsenal created almost 5 times as many chances down their left flank in that game alone, which tells me that they are going to be dependent on their left flank, and especially Tierney for creativity. His injury his injury record is a concern, but given his attacking potential, he could do well in the weeks to come. Personally, I won't go there because I think that 4.9 million for an Arsenal defender is a bit too much on a wild card, but I can't really sort of stop anyone from going against him. I won't advise anyone from going against it because I see the logic, especially with the fixtures.
Okay, let's move on to Brentford versus Brighton. A good game for those defensive numbers, perhaps, Bakar.
Exactly, James. This when I was looking at the odds this game week, this was the toughest fixture to call actually. And that tells me that most of the bookies, they firmly believe that this could potentially be a 0-0. When you look at the clean sheet odds, actually, both Brighton and Brentford are similar. And I completely agree with how the bookies think over here, especially given the fact that how both defenses have been performing this season. When you look at the numbers, Brighton are actually 4th for XG conceded from open play. And they're posting some really good numbers defensively, which has been the case with them. Now, in my opinion, they're sort of tried and tested and a proven defense this season. While Brentford have surprised many, Raya has been racking up the points defensively, and they've done really, really well. And I don't think they've been overperforming, actually. They've conceded just the 2 big chances this season, which is why I agree. I can see both defenses being tight, and I don't think there will be too many goals in this one.
Yeah, early days, but Brentford looking very, very impressive, and an exciting team as well going forward. It's always nice to have that combination when you're looking for those budget gems. How do you size up that Leicester versus Man City fixture, Bakar?
I think City will win. Leicester haven't impressed me at all, neither attacking-wise nor defensively. Attacking-wise, their numbers have been really, really poor, while defensively, they're ranked among the top 6 teams for XG conceded this season. And, even their numbers have been poor throughout, even against Wolves in the first fixture. Then, you can argue that they were down to 10 against West Ham, but even the third fixture against Norwich, their defensive numbers weren't great. I think City will score 2 or 3 past them this week. And, but it's... I know what you're going to ask, Ness, like who's going to start from the Man City attack. I honestly don't know. That's something which honestly only Pep knows the answer to.
I was hoping that you had a direct line with Pep, Bakar. I'm disappointed that you don't. But one man that everyone, or many FPL managers, will be looking out for on that starting team lineup will be Ferran Torres, who's a very, very popular transfer in this week. Ferran Torres hasn't really given Pep much of a reason to drop him, has he?
No, he's been exceptional actually, and when you look at Pep's comments regarding Ferran, that tells you that how much he rates him. Very recently he said that we need someone like Ferran to make movements towards goal because he's a guy who can make those direct movements and he makes those Vardy-like runs, and that's high praise coming from someone like Pep. And given the fact that he's been on absolute fire recently as well, he scored in each of Spain's 2 previous fixtures as well. So I mean, if he starts, he's going to be absolute gold. But the concern is the security of starts in the immediate future. because he was rested. Because he played all 3 games for Spain very recently. He played 90, in fact, in the most recent game against Kosovo, and that tells me that I know he's only 21, but I mean, Pep might choose to rest him in one of the coming fixtures. Now, whether that happens this week or in the Champions League or in the Southampton game is actually tough to guess. If you were to ask me, I think he starts Leicester and then he gets rested in either the Champions League game or the Southampton game. Now, which one is tough to guess, but this is how I see it.
Okay, well, managers will be hoping that he's rested in the Champions League and plays all of those Premier League games. It remains to be seen. I think with Man City assets, at some point, you just have to reconcile yourself with the fact that, yes, they probably are going to get benched now and again, but the points they score you when they are playing compensate for those rests. But I've got him on my wildcard, Bakar, so I'm desperately trying to find a reason to bring him in. Let's move on to that Man United versus Newcastle fixture, and of course it's all about this man, Ronaldo. I've got a rather unflattering picture of Ronaldo during his time at Man United. The first time round, he rejoins his Premier League club. What are the FPL implications?
This transfer has had huge FPL implications, James, and what makes it tough to guess is his impact on Bruno, his impact on Greenwood. That's the toughest thing to guess, because we don't really have any sort of reasonable assumptions to make, right? Or it basically depends on an individual's reading of the game, which is down to personal preference, right? So obviously your opinion might differ to mine, and it's basically down to the reading of the game. If you ask me about Ronaldo and his FPL implications, I personally believe that he is the best captaincy option, not only this week but also in Gameweek 6, which makes him a very good buy in my opinion. A lot of FPL managers are facing this predicament where they're considering whether to sell Bruno for a hit or not. In my opinion, I think Ronaldo for Bruno for a hit is firmly worth it because of the captaincy factor. In Game Week 6, City are playing Chelsea, so someone like Lukaku could haul in this week against Villa, but then again he doesn't have a good fixture in Game Week 6, and that is why I think I prefer someone like Ronaldo, because he gives you that option of two captaincy fixtures in the coming games.
It's just so great for FPL managers because it throws up this rather interesting dilemma that seemingly no FPL managers can agree on. We have some of the best FPL managers in the world, like yourself, saying, bring him in, take a hit if you need to, it will be worth it. We have others, Rich Clark on his team reveal today, talking about the fact that actually it might not be worth the hit, with the doubt over whether or not he's going to start. It's fascinating that it's dividing opinions so much, and it's going to make Game Week 4 all the more intriguing. Southampton versus West Ham, Bakar. Can we expect another goal fest from our West Ham boys, or do you think that train is going to come to an abrupt halt?
I think West Ham are likely to do well again. Southampton haven't been as impressive defensively this season, while West Ham are basically topping the numbers for XG from open play. Antonio, I mean, the less said about him, the better. I mean, he's simply a guy who's at the peak of his powers. He's an absolute monster these days, and thankfully he's arrived back safely from his internationals. I mean, I was very worried that he might get injured. I think they're going to continue on their merry way, and personally, if you don't have him in, I would honestly advise managers to bring him in. If you don't have him already for some reason, there's no reason to sell him. He's the top FPL point scorer. He's top by a considerable distance for big chance involvements. So my take on him is very simple. I think he's likely to do well again this week.
Is Benrahma a flirtation in Game Week 3 that we should now be moving away from? Of course, he blanked for the first time this season in Game Week 3 after a lot of people had finally decided to bring him in. His underlying numbers maybe not as good as some of his West Ham colleagues. You look at Fornells, for example. Bowen as well is posting some good stats. Is there an argument to be made that maybe we should be looking at other West Ham attacking assets, or is Benrahma still your man in that midfield?
Okay, so James, this is the kind of situation in which I would recommend managers not to sell and not to buy him. He's had three big chance involvements in the previous three fixtures, which are perfectly good numbers for someone of his price. I don't think the numbers are bad. And the upcoming fixtures are good as well. You look at West Ham's fixtures, Southampton, Man United, then Leeds, then Brentford. Those fixtures are nice. I don't see a reason to sell him right now, but if I was on a wild card, I'd be tempted to get rid of him for better options.
Interesting. Okay, that I'm heeding those words because at the moment he's still in my wildcard team. But I look at Fornals, for example. I even looking at Traore. Let's move on to Wolves, in fact, because you wanted to talk about their underperformance. I think there's some opportunity here.
For sure. I mean, this is actually my favorite topic of the week, James. For someone who religiously studies stats, I think this is a very interesting topic to discuss. So Wolves have had 56 shots, 36 of them coming from inside the box, yet they haven't scored in their first three fixtures. And, bear in mind that these three games in which they played so far have been very tough games. They've played Leicester, then they played Spurs in game week 3. They were against Man United. So to post such numbers despite having had a tough run basically tells me that this could be an opportunity for managers to pounce upon, because not many will be investing in them. A lot of casual managers especially will just look at the fact that they've lost 3 out of 3 and they'll ignore them. I personally feel the opposite. When you look at his numbers, I'll just read out some of his numbers. This is how he ranks among midfielders this season. For shots, he's second. For shots in the box, third. Big chances, fifth. XG, fifth. XGI, third. Penalty area touches, second. Chances created, first. I mean, he's right up there when you look at all those numbers, right? It's hard. It's historically, it's been hard to build a case for Adama Traore, because the counter argument I often hear on Twitter and on other socials is that he's had a career best of just four Premier League goals, but in my opinion he hasn't been really playing in such a system which gives him the freedom to attack as freely as Bruno Lage's system.
Yeah, and also he's never really had the consistent faith of his manager before. It's rare that you see Traore start in consistent games in the way that he is this season, which is promising. Maybe he can build some momentum off the back of that. Let's move on to that Chelsea versus Villa fixture. It's the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. It's a plum one for Romelu Lukaku owners, Bakar, if he starts.
If he starts, yeah. And if we get news tomorrow that he's starting, this is going to be a tough watch for someone who won't pick Lukaku. And at the moment, I'm in the same boat where I'm not considering him because of his fixtures in game week 5 and 6. Because I'm not going to captain him in any of the next 3 fixtures, I personally am not selecting him. But if you own him, he's a fantastic option to captain in game week 4, particularly given the absence of Emi Martinez. Emi Martinez is absolutely huge for the Aston Villa defense. Aston Villa's defense this calendar year hasn't been that great, if I'm being honest, and Emi Martinez has saved them on several occasions. So with Lukaku in form and Mount creating for him, this could be a haul for him.
And what about on the other side? I mean, most managers not really giving Ings much of a prayer here in this game. Chelsea, of course, very defensively resolute. Do you think it's unfair that Ings is being judged so harshly, or is it time to shift him on?
I think it's time to shift him on, honestly, James. I think FPL managers who've owned Ings over the first 3 weeks, and that includes myself, we've been fortuitous to get so many points. I don't think that's going to continue. Villa are ranked bottom for XG from open play this season, which is very, very surprising given the fact that they've played two out of the 3 promoted teams early on the season. They've had very, very favourable fixtures. Ings has basically scored from 2 of his 4 shots, right? He hasn't had any big chance from open play yet he's returned in every single of his 3 games. When you look at his numbers, his XGI is just 1.24. His goals are 3. his returns are 3. That tells me that he's been overperforming. That's unlikely to continue, especially against a very rigid defense like Chelsea.
It makes that Ings to Ronaldo transition a little bit more palatable, doesn't it? Because if Ings had been posting great underlying stats to back up his goals, maybe that would have been more of a predicament. So Sunday, only one fixture on Sunday, managers, but it is a good one. Leeds versus Liverpool. I'm excited about this game, personally. I've got Jota up on screen. Bakar, I know you wanted to mention him.
Absolutely, James. Now, Jota is someone who has suddenly emerged as a very good mid-priced midfielder because of the news regarding Firmino's injury. He went off early against Chelsea in the first half, and we're hearing that there's a chance that he might be out for at least a couple of weeks. And should that be the case, then Jota is a very, very good option. Last season, I was looking at his numbers. Last season, he had an average of 4.7 FPL points per start, with a very healthy expected goal involvement of 0.7 per start. Now that tells me that if he starts, he's very, very likely to get points. Particularly, I like the Leeds fixture for him because Leeds have conceded the most amount of chances down the middle this season, while Jota's likely to play through that middle. And if he gets those chances, he's on form these days. I think he's going to put them away.
Differential captaincy shout, perhaps. If you don't have Ronaldo in your team, I can certainly see a case for Jota there.
Could be. I mean, personally, I won't go there because I think this home and away advantage for me is huge. This season I've been studying the number of home goals being scored are significantly higher. 62% have come at home, 38% have come away. Now this is a trend which was prevalent in the seasons before COVID as well, and it has continued. This season with the home fans back. So, I mean, if you're willing to overlook the home and away advantage, then I think Jota is a very good option.
Speaking of home advantage, we should quickly touch on what Leeds have to offer as well. They will be without Rafinha, which is a significant blow for them. We've heard that due to FIFA regulation, they have been banned from Gameweek 4, along with a couple of other Brazilian Premier League players as well. With that said, still plenty of attacking threat that is going to potentially trouble that Liverpool defence.
Definitely. And if the news regarding the Brazilians, them getting banned is true, then I think Liverpool won't keep a clean sheet, because that would mean they miss out on Alisson as well, which will be as big a loss to Liverpool as much as Rafinha is to Leeds. I get asked this question a lot, whether or not Rafinha is worth bringing in on a wild card, and I think he is. Despite the fact that he might potentially miss out this week, I think he's a great option to pick because, in my opinion, he's the best mid-priced asset to own. He's had 18 big chance involvements in 21 matches this calendar year, which just tells me how heavily involved he is.
To be fair, I thought that ban was set in stone. So the fact that it might not be, and there's still a chance he could play, will be music to his 16% of managers who own him. Okay, then on Monday, we have 8 o'clock in the evening, Everton versus Burnley, a tasty-looking one for those Calvert-Lewin and Everton defence owners, Bakar. Let's start with that main man up top. You like the look of him, don't you?
Absolutely, I do, James. And before this game week, before the Ronaldo move happened, I had actually penciled innings to Calvert-Lewin as a move because I like this Burnley fixture so much. Burnley are top for headed attempts conceded this season, third worst for XG conceded, while Calvert-Lewin is top for XG this season. So this seems like a match made in heaven. This is exactly the kind of fixture he's likely to do well, and especially now that he's on penalties, all things, all stats, all indicators are telling me that this is a fixture he's likely to do very well in.
Yeah, let's hope he plays. He was photographed in training this week, which is always a promising sign. Of course, not gospel by any means, but the fact he's kicking off on that Monday night gives him a couple of extra days that hopefully means he's going to start that game. And let's talk about Everton's defence as well, Bakar. We know that you invested in Everton's defence last week, which was a very shrewd move, and you back their chances here again today.
Yes, I think they'll do well defensively in the coming weeks. You know, their numbers have been very, very impressive. Even last week, James, they limited Brighton to just 5 shots inside the box. And when you look at the big chances conceded, only Man City have conceded less this season.
And look at those fixtures: Burnley, Aston Villa and Norwich in their next three. Doesn't get too much better than that when you're looking at good defensive and indeed attacking fixtures. So potentially worth investing at both ends of the pitch there. All right, Bakar, that concludes today's Game Week 4 preview. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Viewers, I've got to say, if you appreciate Bakar's insight, the stats, he puts a lot of research into these previews, please do consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and go and follow at BigManBakar on Twitter. If you like this, you'll love his Twitter. It is full of the statistical insights, and I can't recommend it enough. Rightio, we will be back.
Thank you very much for the generous compliments. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
Plug, Bakar. You deserve it. We will be back next week ahead of Game Week 5, looking ahead to what will be an interesting set of fixtures. Until then, good luck for Game Week 4, viewers. Bakar, enjoy Game Week 4, mate. I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Good luck.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.